Okay, hello guys. Today we will start with another story on Antarctica. Antarctica is icy cold, but drier than Africa's Sahara Desert. It is by Mel Friedman. So let's go ahead and start the story. You guys keep in mind of what the main idea is, and I want to know if you can tell me what the genre is. So it says here, find the truth. Everything you are about to read is true, except for one of the sentences on this page. Which one is true? Polar bears live farther south than any other mammal. Antarctica's size changes according to the season of the year. It says find the answers in the book. So this is the chapters we will be reading. The world's largest icebergs break off from Antarctica. Kingstrap penguins sometimes breed on icebergs, and you can see them up here at the top. Chapter 1: The Extreme Continent. Welcome to Antarctica, the coldest, driest, windiest, iciest continent. A person's breath can freeze in an instant. Winds can be stronger than hurricanes. Plants are scarce. The largest native land animal is an insect. In this harsh climate, almost everything is covered with ice and snow. Antarctica's cold, dry climate is the closest on Earth to the climate on Mars. Arctic's opposite. Antarctica is the southernmost region on Earth. In fact, Antarctica means the land opposite the Arctic. The continent lies entirely in the southern hemisphere. At its icy heart is the South Pole. This is Earth's southernmost point. Antarctica is the fifth largest continent. It is about 1.5 times the size of the United States and of Europe. Antarctica is encircled by the Southern Ocean. The Transantarctic Mountains divide the continent into East Antarctica and West Antarctica. This is East Antarctica and this is West Antarctica. Highs and lows. The crushing weight of Antarctica's ice pushes down some parts of the land to 2,555 meters below sea level. Some of Antarctica's mountains are completely buried under ice. Antarctica's highest mountain is the Vinson Massif. It rises to 4,897 meters above sea level. Inland Antarctica is drier than the Sahara Desert in Africa. Chapter 2: Ice Desert. Antarctica is considered a desert. That is because it is so dry. Inland, it never rains and seldom snows. All but 2% of the land lies under thick sheets of ice. One enormous sheet covers East Antarctica. Another covers West Antarctica. The Transantarctic mountain range separates these sheets. It is about 3,500 kilometers long. In some Antarctic valleys, it has not rained for more than 2 million years. That's quite a long time. Volcano on Deception Island, Antarctica. Antarctica has at least 2 active volcanoes. Under the ice. The ice on the Antarctic sheet is fresh water, not salt water. The sheets formed over millions of years from layers of snow that never melted. They contain about 90% of the world's ice. That's nearly 3/4 of all the fresh water in the world. The ice sheet covering East Antarctica is at least 14 million years old. That's quite a long time. Antarctica is the world's highest continent. Its ice sheets are as thick as 3,505 meters in places. Antarctica has some of the world's biggest glaciers. These are formed when snow turns to ice over time. These masses of ice begin to flow under the pressure of their own weight. When a glacier reaches the sea, chunks of ice sometimes break off, forming icebergs. The birth of an iceberg from a glacier is called calving. Wild and windy weather. Antarctica holds the record for the world's lowest temperature, 89.2 degrees Celsius. In some places, it is too cold for snow. Tiny ice crystals fall instead. They are known as a diamond dust. Seawater freezes at a lower temperature than fresh water. Yet, every winter, sea ice forms around Antarctica. Also, snow and ice on the continent form ice shelves. These extend into the sea from the ice sheets. These cause Antarctica to double in size. Most ships visit Antarctica in summer, when the sea ice is not so dense. Auroras, seen here above a British research station, are produced by solar wind. Because Antarctica is in the southern hemisphere, summer begins in December. Winter begins in June. At the South Pole, the sun never sets in summer and never rises in winter. Wind speeds of up to 322 kilometers per hour have been clocked in Antarctica. Fierce gusts called katabatic winds often create blizzards. In the Antarctic's night sky, there are sometimes colorful displays of light. These are the southern light, or auroras. Seals spend most of their time on sea ice and in the sea. They go ashore only to breed and raise their young. So slow. Chapter 3: Life in the Cold Zone. Survival on Antarctica is tough. Living things must be able to cope with both the harsh climate and months of darkness. Few plants and animals can live on land there year-round. The Southern Ocean, however, is full of life. Many animals, such as whales, also come to Antarctica in summer to feed. Weddell seals live farther south than any other mammal. Tiny plants, tiny animals. Most of the plants in Antarctica are lichens, mosses, algae, and liverworts. These plants may cling to rocks or thrive in snowmelt. Some even live inside ice. A grass and a tiny flowering plant are the only native higher plant forms. These live on the Antarctic Peninsula. This peninsula is close to South America. It is warmer and wetter than the rest of Antarctica. Temperatures can rise to above freezing in summer. Most native Antarctic land animals are insects or mice that are related to spiders. The largest native land dweller is the eyeless, wingless springtail. This insect is about 30 millimeters long. In spring and summer, birds come to Antarctica to breed. Only the emperor penguins remain on the continent through winter. Grass grows on sunny slopes in Antarctica. Albatrosses come ashore to breed. In the sea, sea animals thrive in Antarctica. Whales are summer visitors. Some Antarctic fish live there year-round. Several Antarctic fish have a kind of antifreeze in their blood. It keeps them from freezing solid. At the bottom of the Antarctic food chain is a one-celled organism. It is called a diatom. In summer, diatom blooms provide a feast for krill, a tiny shrimp-like creature. In turn, krill is an essential protein food for many fish, birds, and sea mammals. Sea spiders as large as 30 centimeters across live in Antarctic waters. That's so big. In winter, humpback whales leave Antarctica. Many of them head to the east coast of Australia to have their young. A humpback whale eats about 1.5 tons of krill in one day. Passing through, more than 10 different kinds of whales come to Antarctica in summer to feed. In winter, they head north to warmer waters. They leave to breed or to give birth to their young. Newborn whales will not survive in the icy water of Antarctica. Millions of birds. Many kinds of birds begin life on Antarctica. Some spend their lives there. About 40 kinds of seabirds breed in Antarctica in summer. These include albatrosses, cormorants, terns, and gulls. More than 15 kinds of penguins live in Antarctica. Penguins are found only in the southern hemisphere. They cannot fly, but they are expert swimmers. They can dive to great depths. The kelp gull is the only type of gull in Antarctica. King-sized. The biggest penguin in the world is the emperor penguin. It grows to be about 1.2 meters tall. It is the only penguin that breeds in the Antarctic winter. It raises its young in the harshest conditions on Earth. First, the female lays an egg. Then the male rests the egg, and later the chick on its feet. This keeps the chick off the ice. The father's warm belly warms the chick. In storms, the penguins huddle in groups of as many as 5,000. To keep warm, they take turns moving from the outside to the inside. Icebergs appear white because the ice is full of bubbles. Blue streaks are clear, bubble-free ice. These result when ice in cracks refreezes. Chapter 4: Mysterious Land. The ancient Greeks were the first to suggest that an unknown continent lay south of the equator. They imagined this land to be warm and fertile. Explorers did not venture into the Southern Ocean until the 1700s. The ice and extreme weather would keep them off the continent for nearly 100 more years. Between 50 and 99% of an iceberg is under the water. The Southern Search. In 1768, the British government sent Captain James Cook to search for a southern continent. In 1773, Cook sailed farther south than any explorer before him. He crossed into Antarctic waters. He then sailed around the whole continent. He never sighted land. Sea ice stopped him from getting close enough. However, his voyage proved one thing. If there really were a southern continent, it would be too far south to be habitable. The Ross Ice Shelf is about the size of France. Where it meets the sea, its cliffs are nearly 61 meters high. Chasing a continent. In the 1800s, Antarctic exploration were pursued by naval officers, whalers, and sealers from many nations. No one knows for sure who was the first to sight land or set foot on Antarctica itself. In 1841, James C. Ross, a British naval officer, went beyond the Antarctic sea ice. He entered what is now the Ross Sea and mapped its coast. He discovered the Ross Ice Shelf and Mount Erebus, an active volcano. Crater. It's sideways. I don't know why it's sideways. The big truth. Mount Erebus is the southernmost active volcano in the world. It has been active continuously since 1972. It spits out as many as 50 lava bombs a day. Some of them are as big as 3 meters across. Lava Lake. The lava in most volcanoes is hidden under a cap of solid rock until it spews out during an eruption. Mount Erebus has a lake of steaming lava in the crater as its summit. This offers scientists the rare opportunity to study the first-hand. Hot spots. Hot gas seeping through the sides of the volcano forms caves in the ice. It is warm and hurried, humid inside the caves. Steam escaping from the caves freezes instantly. It forms it forms towers of ice as tall as 18.3 meters. There are hundreds of these towers on Mount Erebus. Robert Scott made his second trip to Antarctica on the ship Terra Nova. The name is Latin for new land. Chapter 5. The Great Race. The year 1897 to 1917 are often called the heroic era of Antarctic exploration. There were 15 scientific expeditions to Antarctica during this period. But the great historic event was the race to the South Pole. Two brave explorers competed with each other to be first to accomplish this goal. Since 1991, non-native animals are no longer permitted in Antarctica. Amundsen's dreams. Roald Amundsen was the son of a Norwegian shipowner. His dream was to be a famous explorer. He quit medical studies as a young man and went to the sea. In 1905, he pioneered a sea route through the Arctic ice. In 1909, he was planning an expedition to the North Pole. After hearing that others had beat him to it, he decided to be the first to make it to the South Pole instead. Amundsen had studied the ways of native peoples of the Arctic. He learned how to work with sled dogs. He also learned how to dress for the cold. He used skis and dog sleds for his Antarctic expedition. Great Scott. Robert Falcon Scott joined the British Navy when he was 13. From 1901 to 1904, he commanded the British expedition to Antarctica. The expedition reached farther south than it had any before it. Scott returned to Britain a national hero. In 1910, he was sent on another expedition to Antarctica. This time, the goal was to reach the South Pole. Scott was a poor skier. He had no experience with sled dogs. He used ponies, motorized vehicles, and manpower to pull the sleds. Brave effort. In the autumn of 1911, both Scott's and Amundsen's teams set out to reach the South Pole. They had to cross about 1,300 kilometers of snow and dangerous ice. Scott reached the pole on January 17, 1912. The Norwegian flag was already there. Amundsen had beat him by 34 days. Scott and his men were disappointed and worn out. On the return journey, tragedy struck. They were hit by extreme weather. For weeks they struggled on, but all 5 men died. Antarctic timeline: 1840, French explorer Jules de Youville names the penguins he sees in East Antarctica after his wife Adélie. 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen is the first person to reach the South Pole. Living memorial: 8 months later, the tent and frozen body of Scott and 2 of his men were found. Scott's diary gave the public a first-hand account of their tragedy. It quickly became a bestseller. The hut that Scott used on his first Antarctic expedition is still there. It has been preserved as a museum. To step inside is to step back 100 years. Food, utensils, and gear are all there, as if waiting to be used. The hut serves as a memorial to all the explorers of the heroic era. 1929. Richard E. Byrd of the U.S. Navy is the first person to fly to the South Pole. 1959. The Antarctic Treaty is signed. It dedicates the continent to non-military uses and to science. Will Steger's team endured extreme conditions crossing Antarctica. Sometimes blowing snow would almost suffocate them when they gulped for air. Chapter 6: Modern Explorers. Since the heroic era, there have been many expeditions to Antarctica. A few have carried on the grand heroic tradition. In 1989 to 1990, for example, American Will Steger led the first dog sled crossing of Antarctica. It covered more than 6,000 kilometers and took 7 months. Will Steger's team had a dog trainer specifically to care for his 36 sled dogs. That's a lot of dogs. Researching Antarctica. Antarctica is not only the coldest and driest place on Earth, it is also the cleanest. Its environment has been stable for millions of years. This makes it a great place for scientists. They study diatom fossils for valuable information about Antarctica's climate history. They study ice and land to learn about Earth origins. Most research in Antarctica is done in summer. About 1/4 of the people stay there through the winter. The polar region play a special role in the world's climate. Ice and snow are like giant reflectors. They bounce the sun's rays back into space. This keeps Earth cool enough to live on. There's a thin layer of ozone gas in Earth's atmosphere. It blocks harmful ultraviolet light from the sun. In the 1980s, scientists discovered a hole in this layer, right above Antarctica. Thanks to research, steps are now being taken to ensure that the hole in the ozone layer closes up again. Bacteria and viruses do not thrive outdoors in Antarctica. Food doesn't spoil. People don't catch colds easily. Leading ladies. Women have been actively involved in Antarctica research and exploration since 1969. In 1974, Doctor Mary Alice McWhinney was the first woman to be named chief scientist of the U.S. McMurdo Station. In 1992, American Anne Bancroft led the first women's team to the South Pole on skis. In 1994, Liv Ernestsen of Norway became the first woman to ski alone to the South Pole. Liv Ernestsen, Antarctica, in Antarctica. Poles apart. The geographic South Pole is the southern point around which Earth spins. The magnetic South Pole is the spot toward which the south end of all compass needles points. It is more than 2,700 kilometers away from the geographic pole. It shifts several kilometers each year. Earth's magnetic field reverses direction about once every 500,000 years. When this happens, the north and south magnetic poles swap places. Wow. This American base is 100 meters from the geographic South Pole. The special place. In 1959, the Antarctica Treaty was signed. Antarctica became the only place in the world shared solely for peaceful, scientific study. In 2007, some 60 countries launched the International Polar Year. Scientists use it to study Earth's polar regions, to better understand our planet. This South Pole was set up for tourist photos. Every year, as the ice shifts, it moves several feet away from the geographic South Pole. So did you find the truth? Polar bears live farther south than any other mammal, or Antarctica's size changes according to the season of the year? Let me know.